My name is Nina, and I would have laughed if you had told me that my life would become a chaotic drama. I'm a 35-year-old journalist who doesn't just sit around. I'm always moving, seeking news and creating headlines. Sophie is a daughter of mine, 8 years old and already in charge of our tiny flat in the city. She is the joy of my life. Before 2 years ago, life was going along as usual. I worked on an article on the new recycling program the city is implementing. Sounds uninteresting, doesn't it? However, Lucas and I later met. He was the mayor's right-hand guy, and he exuded a certain something, I must say. Perceptive, agile, and capable of carrying on a meaningful conversation. I'm 12 years old, but who's really counting? We clicked immediately away. After the interview sessions, it began with informal conversations. He would tell her, "You're doing great work. This city needs more journalists like you." Maybe flattery, but it was effective. I didn't spend time with Lucas. After 1 year of dating, we were married. Lee is his daughter as well. She's 20 and away at college in a different city. We're not close, in my opinion. She seems aloof, especially in Sophie's presence. I recall their initial meeting. I tried to seem positive as I said, "Hello, Lee, this is Sophie." Lee gave her a cold but not hostile gaze. She said, "Hi," then looked aside, engrossed on her phone. Sophie pulled on my blouse. "Mom, does she not like me?" I gave her hair a back comb. "Honey, don't worry about it. She's simply unique." But Lucas saved my life, my role. The hours are insane. He began preparing Sophie's lunch and went to get her up from school. He appeared to like Sophie, and he was good at it. "Mom, Lucas is funny," she would remark. "He makes the best sandwiches." Our residence, it's comfortable. It's a little house with 2 bedrooms, a dated living room, and a kitchen, but it's home. Sophie's room is a riot of pink, with posters of obscure pop singers all over it. Lucas also moved in some of his belongings, mostly books and an old record or 2. It's okay that he enjoys jazz, but it's not my style. Saying, "Nina, you should try listening to this," he would play an old album. It's classic. I would grin and follow along. Sure, I'll give it a shot. But just between us, I never did. The 3 of us became used to this routine. It was pleasant, standard. That is, I believed. Normal is just what you're accustomed to, though, as they say, until it's not. It wasn't like I woke up one day and everything was different. Things just started to change. Like a faucet leaking till the sink is full. It was sluggish. Sophie has always been such an energetic person, don't you think? She was often jiggling, running about, and had mischievous looks in her eyes. Then again, it was as if someone had dimmed her light. She started to become more reserved, as if she were treading carefully. She was just laying there, looking at the ceiling, while I was putting her into bed one night. In an attempt to get her to giggle, I combed her hair. "Hey, Space Cadet, you planning a trip to the moon?" Without even smiling, she only said, "No, Mom." That served as my cue. "And what's going on? You're not who you usually are." She looked away from me as she turned her head. "I'm okay." I took a seat next her. "Are you certain? You haven't been speaking much recently." She gave a shrug. "Just tired, I guess." "Experiencing fatigue at 8? Even though I didn't buy it, I didn't object. Refused to press her. "All right, child, if you so indicate. However, you are aware that you can tell me anything, right?" She gave a nod, but something didn't seem right. I gave her a forehead kiss before turning out the light. "Good night, love." "Night, Mom," she said as I shut the door. Lucas was in the kitchen, so I headed there. He was going about his normal business, turning pages of documents, most likely work-related. "Hi," I murmured. "You notice anything off with Sophie lately?" He didn't raise his gaze. "All right. Similar to what?" As if she isn't who she is. A bit more subdued and quiet. He gave me a shrug without turning to face me. "Nina, kids have moods. She's probably all right." Yeah, maybe. Though I wasn't persuaded, what else could I say? It remained like way for a few days. Sophie was a shadow, hardly noticeable but always present. That made me wonder, perhaps something at school? I chose to question her about it. I waited until we were cleaning up after dinner, which was a nice moment. Hi, Em. Is everything at school all right? She ignored me as she stacked plates. Yeah, it's okay. Are you certain? You're not being bothered by anyone at all. After a moment, she shook her head. No, everyone's nice. Moms know, right? I wanted to trust her though. When something is off, you just have a gut feeling about it. I didn't want to press her, so I let it go for the time being. We had been washing laundry that weekend. Sophie was assisting me with the laundry. I saw a bruise on her arm at that point, and not a little one. I made an effort to speak steadily. Em, what's that on your arm? She quickly rolled up her sleeve. Oh, I fell at the playground. You stumbled. That appears awful, my love. She averted her gaze from me. It's nothing, really. She had a worried expression on her face, which made me want to investigate further. What are you afraid of? It eluded me to solve. All right, if you so desire. But please use caution. Yeah, Mom. I gave her a brief glance. She resumed folding as if nothing had occurred, but I couldn't get rid of the uneasy sensation I had. And I had to ascertain what. It was biting into me like an embedded splinter. I couldn't ignore the fact that Sophie didn't seem right. Her stillness and that injury weren't typical of her. I knew I had to solve it, but I wasn't sure where to begin. Suddenly it dawned on me, why not make use of one of those smartwatches? The ones with the ability to record? I might perhaps get it if it was something that was going on at school. I received the stylish tiny watch. Informed Sophie that it was a birthday gift early. Observe this, Em. If you ever need it, you may give me a call with it, I replied, attempting to seem positive. She gave it a curious glance before grinning. Mom, thank you. It's awesome. I demonstrated its operation to her, but I kept the recording feature a secret. It seemed a little sly, but I had to find out. I was restless for the following few days, waiting for anything. I finally took the watch to look at the recordings after she was in bed. I was listening with my pulse pounding. It was all child stuff at first. The sounds of typical schooling, her talking to pals and background teachers. However, I heard something that instantly chilled me to the bone. Though not the Lucas I knew, it was still his voice. He was furious, extremely furious. You really think you can just goof around? Sophie, you're such an idiot. It seemed unbelievable to me. This was not the Lucas cracking jokes and preparing sandwiches. My hands trembled while I paid attention. A sound resembling a smack was heard, followed by Sophie sobbing. Please give up. I swear not to do it again. I was feeling ill. My Lucas striking my little daughter. I was forced to end the recording. My thoughts were racing. It was clearly captured on tape, yet it couldn't be occurring. It was a restless night for me. I sat there trying to figure things out, pondering. I got Sophie ready for school in the morning and pretended like nothing was out of the ordinary. I made a sick call to work as soon as she was gone. It was up to me to solve this. Lucas was beaming as usual when he arrived home that evening. After putting his coat away, he said, "Hey, how was your day?" Despite my inner panic, I maintained my composure. Oh, the typical, you know. Sophie has an upcoming school assignment. She seems quite happy. All he did was nod. That's excellent. Children require something to occupy them. I wanted to yell at him and ask him why he'd done it, but I was unable to do so. Not quite yet. I had to make sure. I required further evidence. I watched Sophie and Lucas very carefully over the following 3 days. Even while everything appeared regular, I knew it wasn't. I continued to look at the watch, but nothing compared to earlier. But one was enough. It was too much even once. I was thinking about that recording in a stupor. I couldn't stop hearing Sophie's sobs and Lucas's words. I had to take action, but what? I couldn't simply approach Lucas. Not without a strategy. And Sophie, I had to hear her side of the story. I took Sophie to a seat that night. Her toys and artwork surrounded us in her room. Trying to sound calm, I said, Honey, we need to talk about something important." With wide eyes, she raised her head. "Is everything okay, Mom?" I inhaled deeply. "Lucas is the subject. Has he ever caused you harm?" Her gaze strayed. She fumbled with her shirt's hem. "What do you mean? Please be honest with me, Sophie. Has Lucas ever struck you?" A protracted silence ensued. She nodded slowly after that, tears welling up in her eyes. She muttered, "Yes. Why didn't you tell me, baby?" He advised against it. "You would be upset with me," he said. Now she was weeping. I drew her up into my embrace. "Oh, I'm very sorry, Em. Okay, so this isn't your fault. Nothing went wrong with you." For some time, we just held each other while we sat there. My thoughts were racing. I had to keep her safe and remove her from Lucas's grasp. Next day, I devised a strategy. I would gather additional proof, something substantial. I would then go to the police. But I had to protect Sophie first. I gave my mother a call. "Mom, I have a request. Is Sophie able to spend a few days at your house? At work, I have a significant project. Obviously, my darling. Is everything in order?" "Yes, I'm simply busy. Regards, Mom." One issue was resolved there. The difficult part was about to begin, compiling evidence against Lucas. I had to attempt even though I had no idea how to accomplish it. I began by speaking with Lucas's daughter Leah. She could have some information or be able to assist. With my pulse racing, I called her. "It's Nina, Leah. We must speak. It concerns your father." The phone remained silent. Afterward, "What about him?" "I believe Sophie has been harmed by him. I need more, but I have a recording. Has he ever harmed you before?" One more extended period of quiet. And a silent yes. As if a floodgate had opened. Leah confided in me completely, telling me how Lucas had mistreated her and how afraid she was of him. I was astounded that I hadn't seen it before. Acquiring further proof against Lucas was not going to be simple. I was aware of that. The man was cunning and constantly on watch. He was unaware, though, that I was spying on him. I refused to allow him to escape punishment for injuring my daughter. First things first, I had to maintain my composure with him. I had to pretend everything was normal. I remarked, keeping my voice light, "Morning, Lucas," over breakfast. With his nose buried in his newspaper, he returned a groan. Without barely glancing up, he asked, "You got plans today?" Typical work-related tasks, I answered while rearranging my coffee. "You meeting with the mayor? You know how it is." Yes, I was aware of the meetings and smoozing that were taking place. Lucas's game was that, but I was only getting started. I delivered Sophie to my mother's house. Making an effort to appear upbeat, I informed her, "You'll be fine here, sweetheart. Grandma's got that new puzzle for you." Sophie gave a little smile. She gave me a strong embrace and added, "I like puzzles." "Yes, darling, me too." "Me too." I kissed her forehead and mumbled. It was time to head to work when I was certain Sophie was safe. I gave Leah a call. "We must get together. It's time to organize a plan." She consented to meet in a downtown cafe. It was a peaceful location where one could converse without worrying about being heard. Leah appeared nervous when I arrived. Her voice was low as she questioned, "So, what's the plan?" "We must take a video of him. Get him to confess what he did to Sophie and you on camera. It's the sole path." Leah bit her lip and nodded. I might give it a go with him. Possibly elicit a statement from him. We had no choice but to take the risk. "Leah, use caution. He is unaware that we are following him." "I'm aware. I'll exercise caution." We went over every aspect for the next hour, including when to press and when to back off. It resembled laying a trap, and we needed to be flawless. The days that followed were a haze. I avoided being alone with Lucas by keeping a distance from him and making up reasons to remain late at work. Leah fulfilled her obligation. She made up a tale about needing to chat and contacted Lucas. She stated over the phone, "Dad, I've been thinking about when I was a kid." Her voice was audible to me, steady yet tight. There are things we never really talked about. Lucas got the bait. We are able to speak. Yes, come have supper with us. And that was all. Leah was going in with a hooked recorder. I was waiting for her call the entire evening, with my heart in my throat. That evening, it arrived late. "Mina, I understand." I managed to get him to speak. I was both relieved and terrified. "Well done, Leah. Move it over. We must pay attention to it and ensure we have all we require." She approached, seeming as though she had just finished 10 rounds in the ring. We listened to the recording while seated at my kitchen table. Lucas's voice filled the room, then grew more agitated. "You always were a difficult child, Leah, always asking for it." While I listened to him, my blood boiled. And then, as plain as day, he stated it. "I took the necessary action towards Sophie and you. It was necessary for both of you to learn. It was that. The admission. I had a wave of victory at the same moment that I felt sick to my stomach. He was with us. I said in a stern voice, "We take this to the police first thing tomorrow." Leah nodded, appearing worn out yet resolute. "Yeah, it's time he paid for what he's done." The night was really lengthy. We didn't get much sleep, but we had everything we needed. I was going to make sure that Lucas went down. Not even the crack of dawn had awakened me, yet my mind was already racing. I was going to face Lucas today. His confession was included on a little recorder that was sitting on my kitchen table. As I considered what I needed to do, my hands began to shake. Now I was unable to back down. I heard Lucas getting ready, his shoes hitting the wooden floor, the typical bustle in the bathroom. As soon as he entered the kitchen, I prepared myself. He said, "Morning, Mina," and reached for his coffee. He sounded so everyday, like it was no different. I inhaled deeply. "We need to talk, Lucas." He arched an eyebrow while wearing a little smile. "About what?" "Concerning your actions towards Sophie." To Leah. At that moment, the sneer vanished from his face. "What are you talking about?" I became quite angry. "Lucas, I am fully informed. It's finished. Sophie was harmed by you. I know. You harmed your own daughter. I know that." He let out a loud, frigid chuckle. "You believe that will endure? You think anyone will give you more credit than I have?" My hands were balled into fists as I stood up. "They will when they hear this." As soon as I pressed record, his voice echoed throughout the space, freely confessing to his actions. Lucas got pale in the face. I grabbed the recorder from him as soon as he reached for it. "You cannot get away from this, sorry. Not any longer." With his chair slapping the floor, he stood up. "You're going to ruin everything. My career, my life. When you injured those females, you did that yourself. Lucas, it's over." He appeared helpless and trapped. "Nothing can be proven by you. Your word is in opposition to mine." I shook my head, letting out a sour laugh. "No, your word is in conflict with yours. You admitted it, Lucas. Everything is at this place." He was silent and simply looked at me, a defeated expression on his face. With a calm voice, I declared, "I'm going to the police. I'm also bringing this with me. You will bear the consequences of your actions." As I moved out of the kitchen past him, he remained silent. I didn't turn around. I wasn't required to. Everything I required was here. My heart was thumping like a drum when I entered the police station. I never imagined myself in this kind of predicament. Yet here I was, prepared to give in to the man I thought I loved. As I walked up, the officer behind the desk glanced up. "Can I help you, ma'am?" I inhaled deeply. "Yes, I do have to report a domestic abuse incident. I can provide proof." I clutched the recorder like a lifeline, even though my voice was trembling. His gaze became stern as he turned to face me. "All right, let's go to an interview room, and you can tell me everything." The following several hours passed in a haze of statements and queries. As Lucas's voice filled the room, I played them the audio and observed how their expressions changed. It was as though I was witnessing the disintegration of another person's life. I felt relieved as well as empty and worn out when I eventually left the police station. There was no going back now that the truth had been revealed. I gave Leah a call. "It is finished." I handed the tape to them. A moment of silence, followed by the stern yet emotive voice of Leah. "I'm grateful for everything, Mina. Together, we are in this." I tried to seem more certain than I actually was and replied. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. After Lucas was taken into custody, the bombshell accusations made against the mayor's aide made headlines. Despite my life being turned upside down, I knew I had made the correct decision. The court case was difficult. Although Lucas was represented by an experienced attorney who was skilled in wordplay and technicalities, we had the truth on our side. Leah spoke, telling the court about her father's abuse, her voice cracking as she spoke. As the jury listened to her narrative, I could see their horrified and sympathetic expressions. Next, it was my time. The prosecution said, "Miss Stevens, can you tell the court about the recording you made?" I took a big breath and nodded. Mr. Johnson confessed to molesting both his own daughter and mine on tape. My goal was to reveal the truth and shield my child. I resisted Lucas's lawyer's attempts to dissuade me by raising doubts about my intentions and implying that I was seeking retribution. It's not about getting even. It's about holding him accountable for his actions and defending my kid. The day of the verdict eventually arrived, even though it felt like the trial would never end. With my fists clasped in my lap, I waited for the jury to reappear in the courtroom. The foreman declared, "We find defendant Lucas Johnson guilty of child abuse." It felt as though a burden had been removed from me. Lucas received a jail term as well as enormous financial reparations. The judge's remarks were severe. He denounced his conduct and the suffering he had brought about. I experienced a range of feelings as he was carried away, including relief, despair, and rage, but most of all, I felt a sense of closure. The fallout was difficult. In addition to helping Sophie recover from her tragedy, I had to start again in my life. What mattered was that we were no longer under Lucas's shadow. I concentrated on doing my job and being there for Sophie. Both of us began therapy in order to process all that had transpired. Although it wasn't simple, day by day, we were making progress. We relocated to a new home. Although it was smaller than the last one, it was brand new and ours. Sophie rushed through the home on the first day we moved in, looking in every corner. With wide eyes, she exclaimed, "I get to pick my room?" "Naturally, child. Whichever one you choose," I said, as her quickly moved between the rooms. She decided on the one with the large window overlooking the backyard. "I can see the stars from here, Mom." I grinned. "Then it's perfect for you." Although it was a nuisance, unpacking made us feel as though we were rebuilding our lives piece by piece. Together, we made the decision to paint the living room. Sophie got a paintbrush from me. "What do you think? Blue or green?" She painted the brush blue after dipping it, blue like the sky on a sunny day. I said, "So blue it is," and we set to work transforming the space into our own personal sky. We were taking a break from painting one afternoon when there came a tap on the door. Leah was there. With some strange gait, she stood there, hopping from foot to foot. "Hi, Nina. Could I please enter?" Her presence startled yet delighted me. "Of course, come in." In the partially painted living room, we took seats on boxes. Leah remarked, "I wanted to say thank you," as she turned to face her hands, "for everything you did for me and for Sophie." I extended my hand to grab hers. "Leah, we are family. Families operate in this way." Her grin was timid and tiny. I brought something for Sophie. She gave Sophie a little item that was wrapped. Sophie examined the package. "Is that for me?" Leah gave a nod. "Yeah, I thought you might like it." Sophie ripped the box open. There was a book on planets and stars within. Her expression brightened. "Wow, thank you, Leah." Leah appeared content and relieved. "You're welcome." Even if things were still difficult, times like that made everything worthwhile. We were creating something robust and innovative. After returning to school, Sophie was doing well, finding friends, and being the person she used to be. And me, like I usually did, I returned to work, immersing myself in stories and discovering facts. But now I saw things differently and understood the difficulties that individuals had. Although it wasn't ideal, our life was ours. We had each other, our tiny universe, and a secure shelter. That was more than sufficient. It was a fresh start, an opportunity to grow, heal, and love. We were prepared for it too, all set for whatever was ahead of us. All of us together were unstoppable.